Okay, so what we're going to be looking at now is just kind of an application for solving these quadratic equations. Okay, so here's an example of where you might see one. So Ben and Craig are golfing. Ben is about 150 yards from the green. When Ben strikes the ball, it flies through the air and arcs down to the ground. Craig estimates that the formula for the path of the ball. He estimates that the formula would be ht is equal to negative 16t squared plus 18t, or 88t. This would be the path of the ball. Ben reminds Craig that he also needs the formula dt, or the distance of the ball at time t, is 88t. That tells you how far the ball has traveled. And the ht tells you how high the ball is at any given time, or the path of the ball if you're looking at it from off to the side. Okay, so now the question is, will Ben's ball be on the green? Okay, and just looking at this, we're like, okay, well, we want to see when it, when it touches the ground. And when will it touch the ground? Well, if we're assuming that he hit it from the same height of where the green is, so there's no elevation change, that means that if we were to graph it, okay, and he hits it here, and it goes, that means we're looking for when it touches the x-axis again, okay, which would be when the y value is 0. So what we're going to be looking for is we're trying to find when is this equation 0, okay, when do we zero out the function? And so we use the zero product rule to help us with this. If two numbers multiplied together equals 0, then either a or b, or both, are 0. Okay. And as you see here, if 3x plus, or x plus 3 times x minus 7 equals 0, then this function will be 0 when x plus 3 is 0, or when x minus 7 is 0. So if you were to plug in a negative 3 into this equation, you would get a 0, or if you plugged in a 7 into this equation, you would get a 0. Okay, and so that's what we're trying to find with this one. So looking here, we want to try to zero out. So where will we have 0 height? And so what we'll do is we'll set this equal to 0. When is the height? Nothing. T squared plus 88t, and then we can factor out a t, giving us negative 16t plus 88 is equal to 0, which means one of our t's is 0. Okay, because if t equals 0, it's 0, which makes sense. Before he hit it, or right when he hits it, it's on the ground. Okay, and then after that he starts hitting it and it goes up. So now the next one, what we'll do is that we'll take the negative 16t plus 88, set it equal to 0, and solve for it. That gets us a 16t equals 88, divide by 16, gets us a t equals about 5.5. So that means 5.5 seconds it takes for it to, well, after he hits it, 5.5 seconds later, it hits the ground. Okay. So at 5.5, that is when it's on the ground. Okay. And so what we'll do with this is we'll take this and plug it into the second equation. dt is equal to 88t, plug in 55, and for there, and that tells us the distance in which we are going. So now let's look at this one. 4x squared minus 25 is equal to 0. And what we'll do is that we'll solve for x. We move the 25 to the other side, getting us 4x squared minus 25 equals 25. We can divide it through, getting us x squared is equal to 25 over 4. And then we would take the square root of it. Okay, to get rid of a squared, we take the square root, which would give us plus or minus the square root. Nope, not the square root. Let's simplify that. Square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 4 is 2. Which means we would get our answer as plus or minus 5 over 2. And that would be our answer. If we were to plug this number in to there, we would get 0. Okay, and the plus or minus means that we have 5 over 2 and negative 5 over 2. That's what plus or minus means. It's two answers written shorthand. Okay. All right. So what your calculators can do now is that your calculators can find these. If you were to graph them, so when you go into the y equals, so if you push y equals on your calculator and you plug in this equation, you want to move the 4 to the other side. And after you plug that in, you push graph, you will see a parabola being formed. Okay? And then what you'll want to do is you want to go to second calc, and there should be a button called 0, or the other way of doing it is plugging in another equation of y equals 0 and then finding the intersects. But there should be one that says 0, and then from there it'll ask for left and right bound. And what that means is that if your graph looks like this, okay, and you want to find this 0, they'll have a little blinking light and you'll move it left. If it wants the left bound, you want to make sure that you're left of it, and then the right bound, you want to be right of it. And then it'll say guess, you just hit enter again, and it tells you what the number is. So if you were to check with this one, you would find that you have a 0 there, or at both of these, and next one, you find you have zeros at those 2 points. Okay? And that's using the calculator. We'll step through this more in class so you guys can see them. So don't worry about, oh, I'm not 100% sure how to do this. We'll step through it in class, so don't worry about that. Okay? Make sure you have your graphing calculators for those. All right, your IRAT, solve each of these. So they usually will come up with 2 answers, so solve each one. You might have to factor, or you might just have to solve. So the first one, you're going to have to factor into 2 binomials and then find it. Okay? All right.